I am coming to you today talking about something that disgusts me. So if you have ever seen Inside Out 2, you know that I am disgust. Our office has dressed up as Inside Out for Halloween. And the topic today that I'm going to discuss with you is the use of antibiotics. And it is something that we talk to many parents about in our office because around 30% of antibiotics that are prescribed are unnecessary. And that is coming from the CDC themselves. So we see a lot of children who have come into our office with persistent ear infections, coughs, illnesses in general, and their immune system just cannot keep up. And one thing that we often see is that they have been on rounds and rounds of antibiotics. If you know anything about antibiotics, you know that they can disrupt the gut microbiome for up to 6 months for one antibiotic. So as a parent, it can be so frustrating when your child is sick or they have a fever and things are just, they seem dismal and obviously in pain. And it can be something that you just want to be over immediately. You want their body to start functioning again. You want it to be over really, really quickly. But often diseases are supposed to run a course. And so giving them an immediate solution like an antibiotic can actually do more harm than good, even if you really are trying to do what's best for your child. And so we know that when we are giving antibiotics, there are a couple issues with that. One, like I mentioned, the gut biome can be disrupted for a very long time. We also know that there is something called antibiotic resistance. And so when we have antibiotics, the germs in our body can become immune to them, causing us to need more antibiotics and more antibiotics that are stronger and have more symptoms and side effects. And so when we are doing this like antibiotic overuse, just really becomes a dangerous situation that we're giving to our children in hopes of making them better, but there are so many issues that come with that. And it's really a misuse. And so years ago, doctors were told to start doing the wait and see approach for things like ear infections. But how often does that really happen? We know that most ear infections are actually going to be viral rather than bacterial. So an antibiotic is not actually going to help an ear infection if it's a viral ear infection. But so many times doctors will look at a child's ear and say, oh, it's red, oh, it's swollen, and immediately prescribe an antibiotic. There is no wait and see. There's no conversation about alternatives. There's no conversation about that ear infection symptoms can actually be caused from things like teething or the subluxation of that top bone in your neck, or from TMJ, tension, pain, clenching, anxiety, things like that that can cause issues with the drainage of the ears or just put pressure up on the ears underneath from repeated motion in the jaw from teething or, like I said, TMJ pain. And so we know that more often than not, kids are getting prescribed antibiotics that they really don't need. And so when that happens, like I mentioned, the gut becomes very, very affected. Your gut microbiome plays a huge role in your digestive system, your immune system, just your overall health in general. So when we are causing dysbiosis in that gut, we are basically increasing the chance of having more health issues, inflammatory bowel disease, things like allergies, asthma, even things like obesity are tied to dysbiosis in the gut. Of course, autoimmune diseases, which is a huge problem in America. And it's honestly something that should discuss all of us, how sick we are as a country. But a lot of this can start from the use of antibiotics when we are young and just babies. And so we know that before the age of 3, 85% of children will be diagnosed with an ear infection. And so that's a large amount of children who are potentially being put on antibiotics and then seeing the results of that. We also know that because of that dysbiosis, the gut-brain connection gets altered. So your gut is called your second brain. There are so many chemicals and hormones and things that have to be in regulation between the gut and the brain, and that communication has to be really clear between them. Things like neurotransmitters, your serotonin, your dopamine, they are made and they are absorbed in the gut. So when we have a patient who's having anxiety at the age of 4 or even the age of 13 or 37, we know that that gut is going to be altered and affected. And so we are looking back this young to see what was the cause. Was there a lot of antibiotic use? Did you have repeated ear infections? Did you have a persistent cough? Were you put on antibiotics for something like croup over and over every single season instead of looking at some more natural alternatives? And so when we start altering that gut-brain connection, our vagus nerve is going to be the main nerve that we are worried about. It's a very crucial and important nerve for every single thing in your body. It kind of is that gatekeeper for everything else below in your body to tell the brain what's going on, to reflect messages. And so when we disrupt that vagus nerve, we are immediately putting our body into a sympathetic version or drive, and we call it the fight or flight. And so our body is seriously thinking that we are always within a life or death situation. Your brainstem wants to keep you alive. It is going to keep your heart beating, it's going to keep you breathing, and that is its main focus. So if our body is consistently thinking that we are actually running from a bear rather than just sitting in line at school drop-off, we are constantly pumping our body of cortisol. We are never going to be able to do things like resting and digesting and healing and growing and resetting if our body thinks that we are in danger. And so because we are disrupting the gut with antibiotic use, we now are living in a chronic state of stress. And if you're a mom, you can probably understand how that happens. You're waking up to a crying baby or an alarm clock. You're packing lunches, running out the door, sitting in traffic, school drop-off. Kids forgot something they needed for class, a signature, XYZ. Then you're in your car, you have no gas, you have to stop for a gas station. The list and that's like before 9 a.m. And that is our entire day. So we are living in chronic stress, and it can be because our gut is off balance. Our gut is not taken care of. Our gut is leaky. And all of these things can stem back to things like antibiotic use as small children. So we know that there are a lot of more natural remedies for things like a cough or ear infections or allergies. All of these things can be helped in another way with maybe less side effects. And so there's a lot of things to consider with that. The number one thing should always be chiropractic care. So if you are looking for something to help your child's immune system, to boost their immune system, to reduce inflammation, to clear some of that congestion in the body because things aren't working, things are not flowing, the lymphatic system is just not draining, and it's just clogged and stuck, getting adjusted is going to decrease tension. It's going to decrease inflammation. It's going to increase drainage. The eustachian tubes can finally clear. All of the things that are so tight and close together up in your head and neck can all start working as they should because there's not anything causing more stress on the others. If we're teething, now we can have draining ears because we can work on that jaw, we can work on the upper neck. All of these things are going to prevent a buildup of opportunistic infections and inflammation. And so chiropractic from a neurologically based pediatric chiropractor should always be your first step. Beyond that, there are other alternatives. And if you comment guide on this video, we will send you a whole list of natural remedies that we love and really think are really great to introduce into your life or your lifestyle to help your kids when you're really looking to get them better and to help them as fast and as quick as you can, but you don't want to introduce an antibiotic unless it's very necessary. We are not against antibiotic use by any means, but we have a whole range of kids in this office who've never been on one, and they're in their teen years or have gone on their first one recently for something that it's very needed for. But the overuse of antibiotics is what we are specifically talking about here. Everything in medicine does serve a place, just to keep that clear. So it's very important to just become empowered and knowledgeable about when it is something that an antibiotic is the best case scenario for, not when it's a viral ear infection. So if this video is helpful to you at all, again, you can comment guide and we can send you that list, or you can call our office and see how else we can help your child.